Hello, 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 and welcome back to the FIFA World Cup 2026, a global showdown with myself, Gary Stryker, and as ever, the Hooligan. Hooligan, we are here for Group E, breaking it down as we take you through the preamble and the run-ups and breaking down all the groups and all the teams and the players and some of the interesting stats and statistics and facts and all those wonderful things. So as we get in and break down Group E, we will get it in because they have Germany, Ecuador, Ivory Coast or Côte d'Ivoire, depending on which language you prefer to speak, and first-time entrants, Curaçao. Very, very small country, Curaçao. So anyway, we will get into this.
Extremely small, yes.
Extremely small. Hooligan, any sort of initial sort of thoughts over this? I mean, sort of breaking these groups down. On paper, I see Germany as being the strongest team and obviously expected to go through. And then it's a toss-up for me between Ecuador and Ivory Coast, but we can get into that a little bit more. Do you align with that?
I'd say you're approximately right. You have to give a shout out to Curaçao. I mean, it is the smallest nation to ever qualified for a World Cup in terms of population, beating Iceland. If I'm not mistaken, Iceland was the previous record holder on that, which I'm not entirely sure where Iceland's at now, but I believe they're somewhere between 350 to 400,000.
My research, and again, who knows what is accurate or relevant, I'm seeing 156,000 population.
I was talking about Iceland, but not about Curaçao.
I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm sorry.
If you had been listening, you would have noted that I prefaced all that by saying the previous record holder was Iceland.
I'm sorry.
350 to 400,000 people. And yes, Curaçao has 156,000, making it extremely tiny. As you said, 2 games at Bayern Munich Stadium could fit the entire population of the country, right? Assuming they could afford to fly them over. But it's a tall ask for an extraordinarily tiny country who really only qualified due to the unique nature of this specific hosting, where 3 of the normal big fish in the CONCACAF region were automatically participated in the qualifying rounds, and Curaçao did just enough to get in there. And I don't say that to try and disrespect them, because that's not the case. They still had to earn it, right? They still had to play. They still had to win. And on the way, they beat Jamaica, who is a much stronger soccer nation and is actually qualified, I believe is qualified for the World Cup once before anyway. They also beat Trinidad and they just tied them twice. That's all they needed to do. Tying twice is fine. And then beat up on old little Bermuda. Okay, Bermuda's a country that's almost as small, right, as Curaçao. Maybe just a tiny bit bigger, but still. It's the type of stuff that dreams are made of. For the 3 other teams in the group, it's a dream to be able to play them.
It should be. There should be. But again, as we've seen and we've said, we're always rooting for the underdogs, and also as well, if they score a goal, it will be an achievement. Their first ever sort of World Cup Finals goal.
A goal will be an occasion for a national holiday, right? And also, let's not forget that Curaçao is a relatively new nation. It only came about a handful of years ago when the Netherlands went back and restructured its overseas territories and it was previously known as the Netherlands Antilles, the Dutch Antilles, along with Bonaire, Aruba, Curaçao, and then a very small place called Saint Eustatius.
St. Martin was not part of that. So I know we're getting dangerous into the political.
St. Martin is a totally different part of the Caribbean, yo. Come on, man.
I know,
that is a split territory with France. And therefore, if they were to have done something, France would have gobbled them up. They're not about to allow that. They want to keep St. Martin and its cool airport the way it is.
Flown into that airport.
Curaçao
very dangerous.
opted to actually become a separate country. I believe Aruba did as well, and then Bonaire and Saint Eustatius have chosen to remain a part of the Netherlands administratively. So yeah, it's just one of those curious things that came about. Very peaceful breakup, no angst, no suffering. It was all fine. But yeah.
Well, that would have been interesting.
Go for it, boyos, right? Jonas, you gotta be, gotta go for it. I'm just at least happy they didn't draw the Dutch. That would have been. I was going to say, if
they did draw, that would have been good. That would have been good, yeah. Okay, so looking into some of the other teams, of course, there is Germany. Germany, 4-time winners. But they've got an interesting sort of story, sort of relationship with the World Cups of recently. In the last two World Cups in 22 and 2018, they both failed to get out of the group phases, which is concerning, particularly as well when we talked about Italy in previous episodes as well, about how there's been a demise there as well with such sort of storied and sort of rich history in this competition. And then Ecuador, they finished fourth in the CONMEBOL group ahead of Brazil, as we've discussed before. Brazil are not the Samba boys of previous generations as well, so they've also got quite a strong young team. And then Ivory Coast as well. They have won the African Cup of Nations twice, but obviously they're always dangerous, always got a lot of young players as well. So, just on the surface of this, paper-wise, you'd expect Germany to comfortably qualify and win this group.
Yeah, absolutely.
However, the history of the last two sort of World Cups that have happened, that has not happened. And again, they've not been sort of, difficult groups sort of, by their standards. So there could be a slip up here. So, but you'd expect top three, the two of the three, the other one to qualify should be Ecuador, considering the strong sort of team that they have. But I would say there is a world in which you could possibly see Ivory Coast and Ecuador qualifying and Germany not qualifying, depending on how they perform and how those guys play against each other.
You're spouting utter ridiculousness here. Firstly, that German team had a whole different coach, and that guy had been around for years and years and years, right?
Joachim Löw, the guy with the black hair.
Jogi Löw. And so there's nothing to indicate in Germany's current team that they're suffering from that kind of malaise or struggle. And the German teams in those qualifying rounds, I don't think Ecuador and Ivory Coast will be challenging games. Totally 100%. Germany should be able to do it, right? And then I think what it will really come down to in this group is how badly will all the other teams beat up on Curaçao. The goal difference is a massive factor here. Right? Teams that can put 8-9 against them are going to feel pretty comfortable because then they could just sort of go in and draw other teams, right? So as you look at the way the games are stacked up, when you go and you look at how you're going to strategize this particular occasion, if you're playing Curaçao last, you're in the best situation. Because you're going to know how the outcomes came from all the previous games. You know exactly what it is that you need to do in order to get yourself into the position that you want. You essentially get to pick your position in the group.
Yeah.
Right?
That's fair.
And who plays the last game against Curaçao?
That is a very good question.
That would be Ecuador. So Ecuador's in the... excuse me. No, I'm mistaken. It's Côte d'Ivoire.
Ivory Coast.
Côte d'Ivoire, yeah. So they're kind of in the catbird seat, right? Germany have to play them first, which for them is both good and bad. It's good in the sense that it'll make them feel good because if they put 7-8 up against Curaçao, they're gonna walk around with their chest puffed out, feeling pretty strong. All right, that's great. But if Curaçao pull a shocker, score a goal against them,
or
keep it close at any way, all of a sudden
2-1,
that becomes a mental challenge for the Germans that they're going to have to overcome. Right. So in a group where Germany 99% of the time should completely dominate and finish at least on 7 points, if not 9. That is the game that could define the whole future of the game. And if that's a bad one, you're right. Germany could crumble. That's the only scenario that I see where that happens.
Interesting.
It's funny when you study these groups and you study the teams, you got a lot of different ways to look at it. I look at it also in terms of the actual perceived value of the team, of the players or that were last rostered with them. And Germany's value is over $1 billion. Their squad is $1 billion squad in terms of its transfer.
Okay.
Curaçao, 32 million. Like total. Wow. It's not a lot. That's not to say that these players aren't, they're going to be tough. This is the biggest sporting event to have ever occurred in the history of those islands, right? I'm sure there have been Curaçao athletes that have qualified for the Olympics before.
Yes,
probably.
I think
right?
so. Yes. Yeah.
But all things considered, this is gigantic for all of these young men, right? Playing this, and they play all over the world, right? Because Curaçao doesn't have a league, as far as I know.
Just looking at all the teams I was looking at that. I don't think they do, but I'm looking at all the teams that they're playing. I mean, yeah, they are the sticks in the wind. They have been spread all over the world, haven't they? You've got some
Correct.
playing for
I mean,
Miami
and
FC and Germany.
not surprisingly, most of them play in the Netherlands, and most of them actually play in the second division in the Netherlands, right? So they do have some players. For example, there's a center back that plays for PSV, right? The first team, not the young PSV. But a lot of them are playing for like Middlesbrough or Sheffield United in the UK, right? There's a player who plays for Rotherham.
There's a couple of Miami FC players from the
There's some
USL.
players that play with Miami FC. So it's like they're competitive. They're competitive players, but they're not necessarily going to be competitive with these three strong teams fielding the best that their country has to offer, right?
Yeah.
And I do think that out of all of these teams, the one that is the most dangerous is Ecuador.
I was just going to go there. I agree with you. They have got a very good sort of crop of, I wouldn't go as far as to say a golden generation, but a lot of good young players coming through that have good experience and are playing at a very high level. But I mean, just breaking down some of those players, I think the biggest player is Chelsea's Moises Caicedo. You know, they spent over $100 million to buy him. 24 years of age as well. Solid, reliable midfielder. And then if you go and look in that as well, they've got a couple of other players. There's just looking at that, just from top to bottom, looking at the strikers. I know they've got, who is it? Kevin Rodriguez, 26 years old, who plays for Royal Union Saint-Gilloise, who are playing in the they were playing in the Champions League this season. He's looking quite promising. And then they've got this wonder kid called by the name of Kendry Paez, who is now playing at River Plate. I believe Chelsea have got like an option to buy him when they bought him and loaned him out in that sort of that world that they operate in. But he's meant to be sort of considered that, of course, they always get compared to the next Messi. So they're like, he's the Ecuadorian Messi, and we'll see about
ridiculous.
That's
I'm glad that you plucked him out, because he is one of those young players to watch in the tournament.
Yeah.
At that tender age, you know he's going to get some starts. All he has to do is just have a couple of good games, put a couple of shockers up against Germany, and he's landed. But that's not to say that they don't have some experience as well, because, you know, they've got, if he comes back from injury, they've got Piero Hincapié, right?
Hincapié
Plays for Arsenal. William Pancho plays for PSG.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pacho. Yeah, I forgot. There's no end there. That's my bad. But you've got, so, I mean, like defensively, this is a really strong group.
They're both 24 years of age, so they're not inexperienced, but they're still coming into their prime, and they're going to learn and develop a hell of a lot.
And then don't forget, you've got Estupinian, right? Purvis Estupinian used to play for Brighton for years and was traded over to Madrid. Okay. So pretty good. And another one to watch that you probably don't pay attention to because you never watch U.S. soccer, but is Brian Ramirez out of FC Cincinnati. Okay. You know, plays on the left, super pacey. Yeah. And could come in and make some.
Yeah. I think that they are the team to watch out for. I think they will definitely, in my opinion, they should definitely or will definitely qualify. Just the question is whether that's first or second, and sort of obviously how they play against Germany. Because if they beat Germany as well, then they qualify top, and they have the capacity to beat them. They really do.
And of course they're going to have to get through Cote d'Ivoire to do it. And you know, in the World Cup's past, African teams have always overperformed in the opening rounds, right? They play a very physical, fast-paced type of game. They're also, because you love to make a big obsession about this, they're used to the heat, right? So if they are playing inside,
is real.
What's that?
The weather factor is a real challenge. And like, can you imagine these Germans in 100 degrees and wherever they're playing? I think in Philadelphia, it's going to be a factor.
And let us not forget that, you know, Ecuador is not a hot country; it's a high country, right? So while they have heat, they also have altitude issues, right? The other Curaçao's warm all the time. I don't think they're going to have too, even though they all play abroad, it's not that much of a factor. But yes, you've got your, you know, and Ivory Coast, Cote d'Ivoire is littered with talent, right? I mean, just looking through the list, you've got, you know, Diallo from Manchester United. You've got Ibrahim Sangare from Nottingham Forest, right?
Nicolas Pepe,
who you know, who's not necessarily been tearing it up with Palace, but been a problem. A guy named Martial Godot from Strasbourg. These aren't like the tripping off the tongue type of players. Not like, who was the famous their big famous Cote d'Ivoire player was
Didier Drogba.
correct. Right. Thank you.
Yes.
I could see in his face, but couldn't pull the name. Probably because that the blindingness of that Chelsea blue jersey. But yeah, I don't know. In a universe, you could see in a universe these teams, all three of these four teams advancing if they all play tactically, strategically, and get some good draws with high goal counts.
Yeah.
Right?
You could.
It's a possibility.
Yeah. I agree. I think the weather factor will obviously benefit Ivory Coast probably the most. It looks like they're playing in Philadelphia in New York, and they're sticking onto sort of like the Atlantic seaboard and playing on the East Coast as well. So they're going to have some of that sort of 80, 90 degree heat. That will be the Germans' biggest disadvantage. Will be playing in the heat and struggling. That will be them. But I mean,
and they're all outdoor stadiums.
They're all outdoor stadiums indeed. But looking at that squad, I mean, they have, as you say, $1 billion value in terms of quality, right? Up front, Kai Havertz, Nick Woltermade, the Newcastle 6'6" Amazon. And then in midfield, I mean, in terms of star players,
I'm stating it right now. He's a nothing burger. And I agree. A nothing burger in the World Cup.
In our other podcasts, I have said this many times, and I agree with you. But in terms of midfield, I mean, if you look and just read through, here are some of Germany's midfield or attacking midfielders. Florian Wirtz, $100+ million player who plays for Liverpool. There's this young German Lennart Karl who plays for FC Bayern Munich. He's 18 years old and looks very, very good. He honestly has the potential to be young player of the tournament. We'll be watching out for them. And then there's a whole bunch of experience in there of Joshua Kimmich, Leroy Sané, Serge Gnabry, Goretzka. I mean, they are not short of midfielders. And then in defense as well, they're pretty good with Rudiger as well leading them. And then, of course, they've got Manuel Neuer as well. I think this will be his 4th World Cup at the very least, possibly even 5th. I should have researched that a bit more. But
I think it could be. Well, I think it could be his 5th, assuming he makes the team. He did not make the team in their last round of friendlies and has been left off the roster before. I don't think it'll happen in the World Cup because
the way the Champions League, he just won man of the match in the last game against Real Madrid.
That is true. His form has
great.
Come back up, and he's peaking at the right time to give Julian Nagelsmann a real challenge. By the way, he's probably one of the youngest coaches in the World Cup, right? The German coach.
Yeah. So there's a lot of players to look out for there and cover off as well. So Hooligan, based on this, obviously sort of breaking it down, who would you say two countries to qualify?
I think Germany is a must. I think Germany's a must. I think Ecuador comes in second. I think they're just going to edge out. I think they're going to edge out Cote d'Ivoire, and I think they're going to surprise a lot of people who don't often think of Ecuador when you mention soccer or even South American soccer. Ecuador is not one of the top 4 names that trills off your tongue, right? You're always thinking Colombia, you're thinking Brazil, you're thinking Argentina, even Chile. Even though Chile didn't qualify and they've been abysmal for the last few years, Chile has always been like, oh yeah, sure. Ecuador, no, not really.
Dark horses.
So I think this is their time. This is their time to really make waves and show off. So I think they'll seize the moment, come in second.
I agree with you. I think there's a world in which they could actually beat Germany and actually could qualify top. But again, this is maybe more speculative. And again, I think there is a world where I think that opening game for Germany against Curaçao, if they don't go over and smash them 4-5+0, I think all of a sudden there's like, hang on a second, this team's getting going, and we'll see what happens.
That's an inquest that'll start happening both externally within Germany, but internally within the club itself, right?
Yeah,
within the country. Yeah, it's like, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, as you say. Wonderful. Well, Hooligan, of course, that brings us up with Group E. Please keep following, follow, subscribe. As always, hooligan-soccer.com to go and get more insights and musings. Until next time, thank you.
Peace.